We grow up being told that kindness is the universal key. Be polite, be helpful, be generous, and people will love you. But life doesn't quite work that way. Sometimes the opposite happens. You offer kindness and receive hostility. Why? Let's look at 7 realities when you are kind to someone. You think you are offering them a gift. You imagine they will see your intention, accept your gesture, and feel lighter because of it. But often the opposite happens. Your kindness becomes a mirror. It doesn't just show them your warmth. It reflects back their own insecurities. Picture this: you help a colleague at work who is struggling with a task. You step in with patience and clarity, walking them through the problem. On the surface, it looks like a simple act of support. But beneath the surface, they might hear a very different message. I am incompetent. I cannot manage on my own. I need rescuing. Your help, instead of making them feel stronger, confirms their fears of weakness. This is the paradox. Kindness, instead of lifting people, can expose the gap between who they are and who they wish to be. If someone is confident, they will accept your gesture with gratitude. If someone is insecure, they will take it as an insult, even if you never intended it that way. What you meant as generosity, they interpret as judgment. Think of compliments. A simple, "you did a great job," sounds harmless. But to someone plagued by self-doubt, those words highlight the voice inside that whispers, "You don't deserve praise. You're a fraud." Your compliment is meant to soothe, but it deepens the crack in their self-image. They hate not you, but the way you remind them of their fragile identity. Now consider generosity in friendships. You offer to pay for dinner. You think it is kindness. But to someone who feels inferior, it says, "You can't afford this. You're dependent on me." They smile politely while silently resenting you. Your gift has transformed into a symbol of inequality. The truth is that people don't always experience your action. They experience what your action reveals about them. Kindness is not neutral. It stirs comparison. It draws attention to the distance between who they are and who they wish they could be. That distance hurts, so rather than thank you, they push back, sometimes subtly, sometimes with open hostility. Even in families, kindness can sting. A parent stepping in to support an adult child might feel like love. To the child, it might feel like failure. The more help they receive, the more they are reminded of their own shortcomings. Your love sharpens their self-loathing. Kindness is a bright light. It illuminates. But what it illuminates is not always comfortable. If someone is carrying shame, your light shines directly on it. They will not thank you for exposing their wounds. They will cover their eyes and curse the light. This is why kindness is often met with resistance. It is not that kindness itself is wrong. It is that people live inside fragile constructions of self-worth. Your gesture, no matter how well-meaning, rattles the structure. And instead of blaming the shaky walls, they blame the hand that shook them. Kindness is rarely accepted at face value. Offer someone a favor, and often the first thought that flashes across their mind is not gratitude but doubt. Why are you doing this? What's in it for you? It doesn't matter if your gesture is pure. Suspicion lingers like a shadow over the act. This reaction has deep roots. Human beings have been shaped by thousands of years of survival instincts. In a world where trust could mean life or death, suspicion was protection. If someone brought you food, maybe they wanted your loyalty. If someone gave you shelter, maybe they wanted a debt repaid later. Generosity was never free. It often came with invisible strings attached. That wiring hasn't disappeared. Even in modern life, when someone extends kindness, the old alarm bell rings. Think about workplace dynamics. You help a colleague prepare their presentation. Instead of seeing it as simple teamwork, they may think you're trying to outshine them or earn favor with the boss. Your kindness is reinterpreted as strategy. It doesn't matter that you had no hidden agenda. The suspicion is enough to taint the gesture. The same happens in friendships. You lend money to a friend in need. They take it, but somewhere inside they begin to wonder if you'll hold it over them. Every time you meet, they feel the invisible weight of obligation. What began as kindness becomes a burden because suspicion converts it into a transaction. Compliments suffer the same fate. Tell someone they look good, and rather than accept it, they wonder what you're really implying. Do you want something in return? Are you mocking them subtly? Are you manipulating them into liking you? Words meant to uplift are twisted into puzzles to be solved, motives to be questioned. Even small gestures fall under suspicion. Holding a door open, offering a ride, sharing resources, all can trigger the thought, why are you being so nice? Suspicion is the lens through which people protect themselves from potential manipulation. They fear being indebted, tricked, or made vulnerable. Past experiences amplify this. Someone who has been betrayed by a partner cheated by a friend, or exploited at work will read hidden motives into every act of kindness. They've been burned before, so they assume every flame will scorch them. Your kindness is filtered through their history, not your intention. Culture adds another layer. In societies where reciprocity is deeply ingrained, a favor is never just a favor. It creates an obligation, a cycle of exchange. In that context, your kindness is interpreted as a move in a game, and suspicion arises because people want to know the rules you're playing by. Suspicion is sticky. Once it attaches to your gesture, it changes everything. The recipient doesn't experience kindness as kindness. They experience as potential manipulation. They watch for the hidden hook, the fine print, the moment when your generosity reveals its price. This is why even the simplest act of kindness can provoke discomfort. It threatens the balance of trust, awakens old fears, and plants questions that never fully go away. What feels like kindness to you may feel like an insult to someone else. Human beings live inside personal maps of meaning, shaped by culture, upbringing, personality, and experience. These maps dictate how we interpret the world. A gesture you intend as helpful might cross into their territory as patronizing. An act of support for you may look like interference to them. The same behavior, two very different meanings, and conflict arises not from malice, but from mismatched maps. Imagine offering advice to a colleague struggling with a project. You want to save them time and ease their stress. On your map, giving advice equals care. On their map, receiving advice equals being treated as incapable. Your kindness translates into a silent accusation. You don't know what you're doing. They don't thank you, they bristle. Or think about generosity in the form of gifts. In some families, giving a present is an expression of love. In others, gifts carry hidden expectations or are reminders of inequality. You buy someone an expensive item because you want to make them feel valued. They interpret it as showing off wealth or establishing superiority. Your gift, instead of delighting, unsettles. Cultural maps differ as well. In one culture, offering food repeatedly is seen as politeness. In another, it's seen as pressure. Declining a gift in one culture is respect, while in another it's considered offensive. The act is the same, but the interpretation depends on the cultural lens. What you see as kind, another sees as rude, invasive, or excessive. Even tone of voice carries different maps. A cheerful compliment might sound genuine to you, but sarcastic to someone else. An encouraging smile might feel supportive to you, but condescending to someone who distrusts approval. People decode not what you say, but what their internal dictionary tells them you mean. Relationships magnify this misalignment. A parent thinks they are helping by giving constant reminders to their grown child. To the parent, reminders equal care. To the child, reminders equal control. The intention is affection. The reception is suffocation. The parent insists they are kind. The child insists they are being criticized. Both are right on their own maps, and both are wrong on the others. Even silence has maps. Refusing to offer help because you want to respect someone's independence might be seen as neglect. Offering help immediately because you want to be supportive might be seen as doubting their ability. There is no universal rule because every individual reads actions through their unique landscape of meaning. This is why kindness is so unpredictable. It is not judged by the giver, but by the receiver's interpretation. Your map tells you one story, theirs tells another. The clash between maps creates misunderstanding. What you believed was empathy turns into offense, not because you miscalculated your feelings, but because the world is drawn differently in their mind. Every act of kindness carries an invisible price tag. You may not write it, you may not even think it, but the other person often feels it. A favor creates a debt. It might be small, it might be enormous, but once it exists, it alters the relationship. People do not like to feel indebted because debt implies imbalance. One person is the giver, the other is the receiver. One stands tall, the other bows slightly. Equality disappears. Picture lending money to a friend, you frame it as generosity. You say, "Pay me back whenever you can." On the surface, it looks like freedom. But your friend now carries the weight of repayment in their mind. Every time they see you, they remember what they owe. It isn't just financial, it's psychological. Your presence is a reminder of the imbalance, and instead of gratitude, discomfort begins to grow. Even small gestures create this effect. Hold a door open and someone may feel they owe you a thank you. Pay for a meal and someone may feel pressured to pay the next time. Offer help with a task and they may feel obligated to return the favor. The cycle of exchange is ancient. Humans are wired to keep score. When one person gives, the other feels compelled to restore balance. If balance is not restored quickly, resentment builds. The problem deepens when the debt cannot be repaid equally. Suppose you mentor a colleague, helping them climb the ladder of success. they may never be able to return the favor at the same scale. Your kindness leaves them permanently in your shadow. What should feel like admiration slowly mutates into irritation, then hostility. They don't hate you. They hate the imbalance that your kindness created. This is why unsolicited kindness can backfire. When you step in to help someone who didn't ask for it, they not only feel the burden of debt, but also the lack of choice. They didn't agree to this exchange, yet they are trapped in it. The debt is forced upon them, and forced debts generate resentment faster than voluntary ones. In families, this dynamic is common. Parents who sacrifice endlessly for their children sometimes expect appreciation or repayment later. The child, unable to repay a lifetime of care, feels guilt. That guilt transforms into frustration and sometimes into anger. The more the parent gives, the heavier the child feels, until kindness itself becomes suffocating. Even compliments can carry debt. A simple, "you're amazing," may sound harmless, but it raises a subtle expectation. The receiver now feels pressure to live up to that image, to perform at a higher standard, to prove the compliment was deserved. The words meant as a gift become a weight they must carry. Kindness, therefore, creates a paradox. It is offered to uplift, but often imposes an unspoken obligation. People dislike feeling trapped in obligations. They want freedom, not invisible contracts. The debt of kindness unsettles them more than the cruelty of indifference ever could. Kindness is usually imagined as a soothing force, a balm for the wounds of life. But for many, goodness is not comfort, it is confrontation. When someone is drowning in bitterness, grief, or envy, your kindness does not calm their suffering, it makes it sharper. Your light does not heal their darkness, it illuminates it. Picture a person who has failed repeatedly in their career. They carry a heavy sense of inadequacy. You step in with encouragement, telling them they have potential, that you believe in them. Instead of feeling lifted, they feel pierced. Your words draw attention to the chasm between who they are today and who they once dreamed of becoming. Your belief in them becomes painful evidence of how far they have fallen. Consider a friend in the grip of jealousy. They struggle to find stability while watching others succeed. You show them kindness, perhaps by celebrating their small victories or offering help. To you, it is generosity. To them, it feels like pity. Every kind gesture underlines the fact that they are behind, that they are not where they want to be. Your warmth does not close the gap, it highlights it in neon. Think of grief. A person has lost someone dear. You reach out with sympathy, flowers, comforting words. You want to share their sorrow and ease it, but your goodness reminds them of their wound. It forces them to relieve their loss at the very moment they are trying to numb it. Your comfort becomes another trigger of pain. And instead of gratitude, they feel resentment. There is also the realm of pride. Many people build their identity on self-sufficiency. They want to be seen as strong, capable, independent. When you show kindness, it threatens that image. Your help whispers you are not as strong as you pretend. For someone who clings to pride as armor, your goodness slices through their defenses. The result is not closeness but hostility. Even simple gestures can sting. Offering encouragement to someone cynical about life may be read as naive optimism, which irritates rather than uplifts. Giving compliments to someone insecure can make them feel exposed, as if you are drawing attention to qualities they secretly doubt. Inviting someone lonely to join you might remind them of how excluded they usually feel, intensifying the ache of isolation. Goodness magnifies pain because it collides with unhealed wounds. It forces people to confront what they are trying hard to ignore. It shines light on cracks they prefer to keep hidden. They do not hate the act itself. They hate the reflection of themselves that the act reveals. Your kindness becomes unbearable because it sharpens what already hurts. The paradox is cruel. The better your intention, the deeper the discomfort it can cause. What you offer as relief becomes a mirror of suffering. Goodness does not always heal. Sometimes it hurts more than cruelty ever could, because cruelty confirms pain while kindness exposes it. Kindness is rarely questioned when it is occasional, modest, or balanced. The problem arises when kindness overflows its natural limits. Too much kindness, too much presence, too much care. Suddenly it feels less like generosity and more like intrusion. What was meant to comfort now suffocates. People need oxygen, and relentless kindness can take it away. Imagine a friend who insists on solving every problem for you. They pick you up before you ask. They buy you things before you need them. They offer advice before you open your mouth. At first, it feels flattering. Then it begins to feel controlling. Their constant kindness erases your independence. You feel like a project instead of a person. Consider the parent who never stops helping their adult child. They pay bills, cook meals, arrange appointments. The intention is love, but the effect is infantilization. The child grows resentful not because the help is harmful, but because it denies them the dignity of autonomy. Kindness without boundaries steals the space required for growth. Relationships become especially fragile under this pressure. When one partner floods the other with constant gestures, checking in, offering gifts, showering affection, the recipient eventually feels trapped. What should feel like love transforms into surveillance. The very warmth that was supposed to create closeness creates distance, because nobody wants to lose the right to breathe alone. This is not just about scale, it is also about timing. Kindness at the wrong moment crosses lines, giving advice when someone only wanted a listener, insisting on comfort when someone needed silence, stepping in when someone was ready to handle things themselves. These acts shift from kindness to interference. Boundaries are invisible until they are crossed, and once crossed, the kindness is forgotten, replaced by irritation. The psychology is simple. People crave both connection and autonomy. They want to be supported, but not smothered. They want to be loved, but not managed. Excessive kindness confuses the two. It sends the message that you know better, that you must intervene, that they cannot function without you. Even if you never say these words, the constant stream of action speaks them loudly. There is also the matter of power. Kindness creates hierarchy when it becomes relentless. The giver rises higher, the receiver sinks lower. Over time, the receiver may feel small, indebted, or powerless. Instead of gratitude, they begin to resent the imbalance. Your repeated kindness makes them feel like they are living under permanent supervision, always the cared for, never the equal. The boundary problem is therefore not about the absence of kindness, but its excess. Too much help erases agency. Too much care breeds suffocation. Too much generosity distorts equality. What began as affection mutates into control, and control is never welcomed. People do not push away kindness because they hate it. They push it away because without limits, it threatens the freedom they cannot live without. One of the most difficult truths to accept is that other people's reactions are rarely a direct reflection of you. You may believe their dislike is the result of your words, your tone, your behavior. In reality, what you encounter in them is often the echo of their past, the weight of their memories, the filter of their experiences. Your kindness passes through their lens before it ever reaches their heart. By the time it lands, it may look like something entirely different. Consider a person who has lived through betrayal. They were once shown kindness by someone who later manipulated or abandoned them. When you extend a hand of warmth, they don't see generosity. They see the opening act of a familiar play, one they refuse to watch again. Their coldness toward you is not rejection of your action, but defense against a ghost from their past. Think of someone raised in an environment where affection was scarce. To them, kindness feels alien, even suspicious. When you treat them with gentleness, it does not comfort them. It unsettles them. They question it, resist it, perhaps even reject it. The problem is not your gesture. The problem is that their inner map does not recognize what you are offering. Human beings interpret everything through personal history. A compliment from you reminds them of mockery they once endured. A favor from you reminds them of debts that once trapped them. A gift from you reminds them of power games they once lost. You cannot separate your kindness from the baggage they carry, because it is their baggage that decides how your kindness will be received. This truth can be painful because it strips you of control. You may think if you just explain yourself clearly, if you just act with enough purity, if you just prove your sincerity, then surely people will respond with appreciation. But reactions are not equations you can solve. They are storms forming in another person's sky. You may be standing nearby, but you are not the cause of the weather. Even in close relationships, this reality holds. A friend lashes out at you not because of the help you offered, but because of the shame they feel about needing help at all. A sibling avoids your generosity not because they dislike you, but because they dislike how dependent it makes them feel. A colleague dismisses your support not because you were wrong, but because their pride refuses to let anyone witness their struggle. The sooner you recognize that these reactions are not about you, the freer you become. You stop twisting yourself into knots trying to please everyone. You stop blaming yourself for the hostility you encounter when you offer kindness. You stop carrying the weight of their wounds as if they were your responsibility to heal. Their response is their story. Your kindness is your story. The two meet for a moment, but they are not the same. Their dislike is not evidence of your failure. It is evidence of the battles they are still fighting within themselves.